Paula Gordon Show continues with Bill Russell, I, Paula, and with Alan Alda. Bill?
Actually, it's the Alan Alda Show.
That's right, and we get to drop by.
He's allowed us to sit in. I want to try to tell you a very quick story because I think it's relevant. We have friends who are psychiatrists and who are Tibetan monks, and they do work here at Emory, trying with mind-body medicine, working particularly with depression. A few years ago, the Pema Dorje, who's one of His Holiness's, the Dalai Lama's personal physicians, and a Western scientist, did a seminar in an afternoon, and the idea was to look at science from the Eastern perspective, the Tibetan perspective, and from the Western perspective, the European perspective. And they each got 40 minutes to make their presentations, and they did, and they were both excellent. Lots of interesting similarities. But the focal point was a man who was dying of malignant...
Melanoma.
It's not melanoma. It's
a terrible cancer. He was dying.
Okay, and he had agreed to be analyzed by these two people out of the Western tradition and out of the Eastern tradition, and it was an extraordinary process to watch the Western and the Eastern. The Tibetan doctor, the first thing was much more physical, got up next to him. But the reason I bring it up is toward the end of his examination, and you could see the guy physically relaxing because he was dying. I mean, he was eyeball to eyeball dying. The Tibetan doctor, looked at him and said, "So what's the meaning of life?"
This is the Eastern doctor?
Yeah.
And of course, this is in an academic setting, and everybody sort of gasped because the last time somebody asked that question we were all sophomores drinking cheap wine and asking the fundamental metaphysical questions, and it just completely altered the dynamic of the entire event. And the Western doctors, including the doctor that was treating this man, said, "You have changed by that question the way I will practice medicine, because we have all these various therapies." And we tell them this, this, and this, but what we've always failed to do is ask that question of the person whose life it is, and let them drive the treatment rather than us taking this exterior view and laying out the.
What did the guy say?
He
didn't say life is a fountain, did he?
No, he did not.
No, he basically said family, family, golf, family, family.
See what I mean? How hard it is.
Tragedy has its. Yeah. But I say that because you, in various ways, come at that on the what's the meaning of life, and it's the tendency is I think we did that day, is to think that's a silly question, that's a sophomoric question.
Well, it is an unanswerable question, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't raise it.
Well,
I think you get somewhere by exploring some unanswerable questions.
Well, it also goes to, I think, it's part of how one trains oneself to pay attention to the moment one is in, I think, probably, too. You say near the end of this, I think, in one of your speeches, that the meaning of life is life. Which is, and that's
an answer. That's
safe. But see, I've gotten there. She's got another answer. Mine is sort of like that, except it's the meaning of life is living, just because I like the verb form of it better.
And
what's yours?
From a poet, and this is a straight lift out of a poem. The poet said the meaning of life is to create meaning.
Oh. Yeah, well, that's what the existentialists all said. There is no meaning to life except the meaning that you bring to it. And that seems to me to be sensible, because a lot of people get stuck on the first part. There's no meaning to life, unless you bring meaning to it. But I like a lot of people who have accomplished things. I have wasted a lot of time in my life. And if I only wasted time, I think it would be a waste of time. But I waste time, and I'm beginning to regard that now as fallow periods where the soil is rejuvenating. I think sometimes I go blank. When I thought to myself, it's very important to be concerned with every moment as it's happening. Well, it turns out that's not really possible. And I realized one day while I was cooking my oatmeal for 3 minutes that I had gone blank for those 3 minutes, because I had the microwave on for it was timed for 3 minutes, so I knew how long I had gone blank from the time I put it in to the time I took
Not
it out.
available.
I couldn't account for that time. I was out to lunch. So I decided, first of all, I got nervous. Oh my God, am I going to miss my life now? This was 3 minutes of my life.
Burn the oatmeal.
Yeah, and it's gone. All I got to show for it is the oatmeal. So I decided that I would call it something else, a vacation. Because a vacation is time you waste, only you put a name on it. But it does refresh you, you get, so I don't know if you ever really do waste time, unless you waste all your time. I don't know if I would want to waste all my time. But I find some of the time that I've wasted in my life, like the time as a kid, I would just lie on my back and look up at the sky and see the clouds go by, and I'd look for faces in the clouds. But I would spend hours doing that. I think that was some of the foundation now for my imagination. I have a very good, useful imagination. Stands me in good stead.
Alan Alda will be back in just a moment. Please be with us.